Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Padme, Island shock. Huge shout out to Top Spartan 216 for this story. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. You don't have to live here alone, Naruto. Our estate has plenty of room and you used to always enjoy staying there with my sister and me. A girl spoke. She was in her late teens to early 20s. Like most people of their planet, she had light skin while having blue eyes and blonde hair that went to the nape of her neck. This was Satine Kryze, the heiress to House Kryze and Duchess of Mandalore. The aforementioned Naruto just looked up at the girl. His skin took a more tanner complexion, like that of his uncle. He had red hair like his mother streaked with the blonde of his father's hair, while his eyes were a striking purple, similar to his mother's. You know I can't do that, Satine. I have already told you that my place is elsewhere. It is for both your safety and the safety of your family. We both know that you would never want Bo-Katan to get hurt. His even and dull voice made her pause. It still surprised her that a child just a year older than her sister could speak like that. She looked back at him before turning to see if the other person in the house was close enough to hear them. Naruto, no one else knows who your uncle is except me and those fortunate enough to know your mother. You don't need to isolate yourself from others because you think they will get hurt. My family is making Mandalore a peaceful planet with all the warriors leaving for Concordia. Death Watch can't reach you here. She spoke with such passion that most would believe her without a second thought. Naruto was not most, he knew the price his beloved Mandalore would pay for this thinking. Naruto had the blood of warriors running through his veins, the type of pacifism that his friend spoke of went against all he was. Our ideologies differ, you know this. My uncle raised me not to sit back when I could take action. What will happen when other worlds wish to attack us because of what our ancestors did? How will we fight back? Taken back by the passion in the voice of the usual apathetic boy, Satine was at a loss for words. She gathered herself before speaking in a kinder tone, specially reserved for him and her sister. Naruto, you are only 8. You shouldn't be thinking of things such as this. And what makes you believe Mandalore will be attacked? The galaxy is mostly at peace now, and we are safe. She would never understand how a boy so young could speak like he was. Before Naruto could speak, he felt it. It was like a whisper telling him what to say, and he knew why. He looked over in her direction before speaking. Satine, just listen to what I have to say. How you take it is your choice. Someone very important to me once said, it's better to be a Mandalorian on Alderaan than an Alderanian on Mandalore when war breaks out. When you learn what this means, you will know what to do. While it may have looked to Satine that he was staring into her eyes when he said that, Naruto was looking over her shoulder. For behind her was something only he could see. It was a specter of a tall man in old Mandalorian armor. The specter nodded in agreement to the words that Naruto had just spoken. Before Satine could speak, both herself and Naruto heard the footsteps of someone nearing them. Turning from the window in front of them, the two saw a girl around Naruto's age approach them. She shared the light skin of her sister, but had red hair and striking green eyes, in contrast to Satine. This was Bo-Katan, Satine's younger sister and Naruto's only friend. What were you two talking about? Bo-Katan asked, whenever I leave you two alone, you always get so serious. She had a curious look on her face while looking at her friend and older sister. Well, I'm ready to go now, Satine. Satine nodded before the three moved towards the front door of the estate. While they moved, Naruto and Satine didn't realize that Bo-Katan heard his words and wondered what they could mean. Well, we will be leaving now, Naruto. I hope to see you again soon. Satine spoke as she grabbed her sister's hand and her house guards neared her. While she truly meant to see him again, just by looking in Naruto's eyes, she knew that the next time they met would be the last time they did for a while. Before Naruto could say his goodbyes, he was stopped by Bo-Katan, who barreled into him for a hug. Goodbye, Naru, see you soon, she whispered into his ear. He returned the hug with a small smile and replied, goodbye Bo. He didn't have it in him to tell his best friend that she wouldn't be seeing him for a long time. After that, the Kryze heiresses boarded a speeder with their guards and left. After waiting for a few minutes, he turned to his right to look at the specter that was always with him. Do you think I should have told them, Tar? Naruto asked with uncertainty in his voice. Tar stared down at the young Mandalorian before speaking. I cannot answer that, Naruto. All I can say is that the Force works in mysterious ways and it decided that they best not know now. But I think the Duchess will know because no matter what, your visitors must go through her first. He spoke with wisdom while Naruto contemplated his words. Naruto nodded as he came to his conclusion. Looking up into the sky of the dome-covered city of Sundari, Naruto looked at a particular area as if looking at something in the stars and made a sound of resignation. Well, let us prepare for our guests, Tar. From what I saw, they will be here in a few days. With that said, Naruto re-entered his estate with Tar following. They had some important guests that would be visiting very soon. Coruscant GD Temple 40 BBY days earlier. Inside a darkened room sat three individuals meditating. The first was a tall, bald, dark-skinned human male who wore a pair of beige and tan tunics with a brown robe. The second was a tall Keldor male who wore his species' trademark protective mask and goggles. His clothing was similar to the human with tan and brown tunics and a black robe. The final figure was very small in stature. He was of an unknown species with green skin with wispy gray hair. His most defining features were his long pointed ears, tridactyl hands, and anisodactyl feet. The clothing he wore was identical to the humans. These three were GD Masters Mace Windu, Plo Koon, and GD Grandmaster Yoda. Master Windu, Master Plo. The Force calls, help me, will you? See something, we must. Master Yoda spoke with the broken form of speech he and others of his kind were known for. The two GD didn't seem perturbed by his manner of speech and sat on the mats beside his raised chair. As one, the three connected to the Force before being assaulted with visions. Or, destruction, despair. Those words described what they were seeing. An army of droids marching upon a planet covered in water, grasslands, and swamps. The world's people were put into internment camps and suffered dearly for it. Millions of men wearing white armor spread throughout the stars. Worlds were subjugated in the name of peace, unity, conquest, fellow GD fighting in wars and taking the lives of the guilty and the innocent. Numerous GD were being killed in all the fighting. Fear and pain so excruciating it was almost unbearable for the masters. Thousands of battleships clashed against one another. Battles filled the stars with ships of all sizes fighting, turbolasers screamed with fury, attacking other ships or firing upon planets. Entire planets were glassed and rendered uninhabitable. Coruscant, a battle raged above her surface. Starships crashed into the surface of the Republic capital after being destroyed in the stars above. Hundreds of thousands of other worlds shared this fate. Betrayal, anger, the dark side. All three GD Masters felt it. A figure enveloped in shadows appeared and spoke an unhearable phrase. GD were quickly fired upon by the very men they were leading. GD Masters, Knights, Padawans died horrible deaths, some quick, while others suffered. The Force cried out in pain for atrocities committed. The same armored soldiers marched in behind a man dressed in black towards an immense structure, one that they all knew, the GD Temple on Coruscant. Devastation was all they saw. One by one, they saw GD and Force sensitives become one with the Force across the galaxy. Blue blaster bolts snuffing out their lives. The man in black and his soldiers attacked the GD Temple with unrelenting force. GD Master Sindralig led a counterattack with GD Temple guards, Knights, and Padawans. Their resistance was not enough as more and more armored soldiers entered the temple. The worst was that it was a fellow GD leading this assault, as seen by his blue lightsaber. Soon only Master Dralig and two Padawans were left. The male Padawan was quickly slewed with a slash across his chest, while the female Padawan was strangled through the Force by the Dark GD. Master Sindralig proved his title as Temple Battlemaster as he fought against his opponent. However, it was for naught as he was cleaved through his shoulder. The armored forces began firing upon the records that the GD had been building for hundreds of thousands of years, destroying all of it. Fear. It was the only emotion on the faces of the younglings who appeared next. They came out from behind the chairs of the High Council chambers to face the dark figure. Master, there are too many of them. What are we going to do? The young human asked, scared of the events happening. His answer was the dark figure igniting his blue lightsaber. The group of younglings were all murdered before they could comprehend what their supposed savior was doing. Soon they were all just corpses on the council chamber floor. Hate, rage, desperation. All around them, they could feel it. On a fiery planet, the dark figure was embracing a woman. Soon a man garbed in the traditional GD clothes appeared from the ramp of a silver ship. Stop now. Come back. I love you. The woman cried out as she backed away from the man. The figure turned toward the GD. Liar. You're with him. You've betrayed me. No. I swear she started speaking before the figure reached out with the Force to choke her. Let her go, the GD asked. The dark GD did no such thing as the woman was losing consciousness. What have you been up to? Let her go. The GD yelled until the woman was freed of the attack. You've turned her against me. You've done that yourself. Your anger, your lust for power, has already done that. Don't lecture me. I've seen through the lies of the GD. I do not fear the dark side as you do. I have brought peace, justice, freedom, and security to my new empire. The figure had a dark look on his face while he believed in his actions. Your new empire? The GD was baffled by the statement. There was no peace, justice, or freedom, just chaos and carnage. Don't make me kill you. My allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. While the figure's name went unheard, the three masters could tell that the GD and Dark GD were once close to one another. If you're not with me, then you are my enemy. Only a Sith Lord deals in absolutes. I will do what I must. The GD then ignited his lightsaber and took the stance of Form 3 Suresu. "We will try." The Dark GD ignited his blade and took a combined stance of both Form V style Shen and Gemso. Both blue blades slammed against each other in a fury of light. The duel raged on for some time, going through an entire industrial building before moving onto a bridge over a river of lava. Both combatants were skilled, each a warrior forged by their experiences. But it was clear to the masters that the GD was being hurt by his actions of fighting someone that he thought would never betray him. It wasn't long until the battle moved over the river itself. The two fought while standing atop ferries to keep themselves above the fiery river that wanted to consume them. Separating, the GD moves towards the bank of the lava river, but not fast enough as the Dark GD follows. Fending him off, the GD leaps towards the bank and stands on the ash-covered surface. "I have failed you. I was never able to teach you to think. I should have known that the GD would try to take over. From the Sith. He is evil. From my point of view, the GD are evil. Then you are lost. This is the end for you, my master." The Dark GD stated, confirming that he was close to the GD. It makes sense of the internal conflict the masters felt the GD going through. The Dark GD then leapt towards the bank, engaging his former GD master once more. After crossing blades a few times, the GD leapt further up the river bank to create space. "It's over. I have the high ground. You underestimate my power," he yelled, his sulfuric eyes pulsing with hatred. "Don't try it," the GD warned. In arrogance, the Dark GD tried to overcome his former master by leaping over him, but it was for naught. The GD quickly cut his fallen student at the knees and then his left arm in a blink of an eye as the Dark GD screamed in excruciating pain. There was no hope for the Dark GD as his body rolled down the bank to a stop at the edge of the lava river. He tried to crawl back up using his mechanical right hand, only to keep sliding back down. The GD then grabbed his student's lightsaber and started walking away. "We were the chosen one." The GD yelled down towards the fallen GD, whose eyes were pulsing a sulfuric yellow ringed with red. The anger and hate behind the eyes only hurt the GD more. "It was you who would bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness. I hate you." That was all the Dark GD said before the lava river ignited his clothing. He then burst into flames and started screaming out in pain. Horror was evident in the GD's eyes as he watched his one student become engulfed in the fire. They appeared in a medical room as the dying Dark GD clung onto life as droids worked on him. New mechanical arms and legs were attached to his body before he was clothed in black armor. Medical devices were added to his armor before the droids fitted a mask and helmet to him. Huo Pure, his ominous breathing filled the room. The figure obscured in shadows walked in and a medical droid approached. "Lord Sidious, the construction has finished. He will live." The figure walked to the side of the half-droid half-man. "Lord Vader, can you hear me?" "Yes, my master." Lord Vader looked around the room. "Where is she safe?" "I am afraid that she has died. In your anger, you killed her." A deep and low groan came from the mask on Vader. Everything in the room started to shake and implode. "No. I could have done this. I felt her, she was alive." The droids were being destroyed by the power of the Force being used. "No." His painful screams echoed throughout. Smaller cruisers surrounded a complete Grey Star destroyer. On the bridge stood the two Sith Lords. A large structure loomed, a gigantic structure outside the windows, promising destruction. Then something strange happened with the visions. They were reversing, the flow of time going back to before the start of the vision. A planet they were familiar with appeared, Mandalore. They are moved through one of the cities before stopping in front of a large estate. Its most defining characteristic was the black banners depicting a giant snarling beast with 9 equally large tails. Soon, they stood in front of a young child no older than 8 years old. His complexion was tan and he had red hair streaked blonde with purple eyes. To their surprise, he was going through the different stances and styles of lightsaber combat with a practiced blade. He stopped and looked in their direction, shocking the GD masters further. He looked up and to his left where a specter appeared. He was dressed in old Mandalorian armor. As one, the two nodded before looking towards the GD. One word was said that shocked the masters out of the visions. "Come." The three GD opened their eyes to look at each other, noticing the sweat on their faces from the events they had just witnessed. No one said a word as they tried to gather their thoughts. It was Grandmaster Yoda who broke the silence. "Stays between us, this must." That seemed to have brought the other two masters out of their thoughts as both looked at him. While Master Windu said nothing, it was Master Plo Koon who was unsure of this decision. "Are you sure, Master? Surely what we saw must be brought before the High Council." "It must. Panic it will cause if brought to the council." "No, but plan we must." The wise master spoke. A look of deep concentration and confliction was on his face. While it would be wise to involve the GD High Council, he knew it was best to act carefully. Yoda was broken out of his thoughts when Master Windu cleared his throat. "Something to discuss, you have." Master Windu." The human GD master was focused more on the last vision the Force showed them than the others. They were in a distant future, while the last one seemed to be attended urgently. Yes, master. While I agree with you on keeping this from the High Council, I believe we shouldn't ignore the last vision. Master Yoda thought on this, while Master Plo Koon spoke his mind. You speak of the child on Mandalore. I agree. We cannot ignore this. But that specter beside him looked familiar. We also cannot ignore that the child was going through the stances of lightsaber combat forms. The child was an anomaly to him, but the Force seemed to focus on him. Agreed. Master Yoda spoke. This child, chosen by the Force. To Mandalore, we will go. But first, make preparations, we will. With an acknowledgement from the two masters, they all left the meditation room. Coruscant GD Temple 40 BBY 2 days after visions. Master Yoda was seen walking through the GD Temple, looking for someone. It wasn't long before someone almost walked over him. The GD was a human male who wore the typical GD robes. He had long brown hair, blue eyes, and fair skin. Master Jin, your help I need. The now identified Master Jin was confused. It wasn't just any day that the Grand Master of the GD Order asked for one's help. It would be my pleasure to help you, Master. What is it that you need? The answer he received shocked him if he was honest. Question I have for your Padawan, Yoda said as he looked up at the considerably tall GD Master. Well, okay then, Master. If you follow me, I can take you to Obi-Wan. After agreeing, Jin led the Grand Master through the temple to the GD library, where he knew his Padawan was. After walking for some time and making idle talk, the two entered the extensive library containing all the knowledge ever collected by the GD. Every GD they passed well gave a respectful nod to Yoda, as many have only ever seen him once, and to see him again was an honor to them. It was not long before they caught sight of a human Padawan. Obi-Wan, Master Jin spoke to get his Padawan's attention. It worked as he looked up almost immediately. Obi-Wan had fair skin, auburn hair, and blue eyes. Oh, Master Qui-Gon, Master Yoda. Greetings. Obi-Wan spoke. He was surprised to see not just his own GD Master, but also Grand Master Yoda. Seeing Master Yoda was an honor for any GD, no matter their rank. Greetings to you, Padawan Kenobi. Question for you, I have. Important it is to me. Yoda asked. Now, this surprised both Master Jin and Obi-Wan. To be asked a question by the Grand Master was a rarity. But for him to say it was important, there was no way for Obi-Wan to avoid it. What is it you have to ask, Master? Obi-Wan replied. Experience and knowledge of Mandalore, you have? Yoda asked. Why yes. Master Qui-Gon and I had a mission to protect the new Duchess of Mandalore, Satine Kryze. Obi-Wan replied. Well there, a symbol you saw, possibly. A golden creature with 9 tails. Laid on a white banner, it was. The look of confusion appeared on the faces of the GD as they tried to understand the question. Master Yoda, are you asking if we saw such a symbol while on Mandalore? Qui-Gon asked. Receiving a nod from the small master, both GD tried to think back to when they could have seen it. Qui-Gon would rather not think back on it, as he was one to focus on the present, not the past, not the future. I think I do remember seeing it somewhere, Master, Obi-Wan spoke as both masters focused on him. It was while I was with Duchess Satine, and she wanted to check in on someone she knew. She did this a few times. I don't remember this, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon spoke. Why would she have risked herself to see one person? That doesn't seem like something she would do from what I gathered about her. Yoda seemed intrigued by this change of events. He would say that Qui-Gon was a good judge of character, and for Duchess Satine to do something not normal for her meant that it was considered above all else to her. It was while you were investigating Death Watch movements in Sundari, and some of the other times you weren't with us. I was asked to keep it a secret. Both GD nodded before motioning for him to continue. She took me to the estate of an ancient Mandalore house. According to her, if we went there, we would be safer than if at her family's estate or the royal palace. He explained. It confused him as well, if he was honest. The Duchess never gave an apparent reason why it was, only that no one would dare to go there. Why, this was? Yoda asked the Padawan, who was trying to figure that out himself. Gathering his thoughts, Obi-Wan spoke. I didn't know at first. She just said the Death Watch was not willing to pay the consequences. When we arrived, we were let in by the staff. His face grew conflicted. What bothers you, Obi-Wan? Qui-Gon asked. For his usually vocal apprentice to act like this, well, it didn't look right in his eyes. Well, Master, it was the staff that confused me. They weren't like the usual staff that would work at a family estate, all of them carried a weapon of some kind. When I tried to stop the Duchess, the staff welcomed her and brought us to a small child and a Mandalorian warrior. That shocked both Master GD. It was a mystery for a Mandalorian warrior to just be on Mandalore after they were all exiled. But now both masters wanted to know why Obi-Wan didn't report this. Why didn't you tell me this, Obi-Wan? I feel as if I should have known this. Qui-Gon asked in a tone that sounded like he was scolding his Padawan. Said Padawan shrunk a bit at the tone before straightening up and continuing. Well, when I saw the Mandalorian, I immediately got in front of the Duchess and drew my lightsaber. When he saw me do this, he brought out his blaster pistols, but he wasn't aiming at the Duchess. If he wasn't aiming at the Duchess, then who was he aiming at? Qui-Gon asked. He was now starting to wonder what else his Padawan was keeping from him. He was aiming at me before moving in front of the child. I was confused until the Duchess ordered me to put my lightsaber away. Well conflicted, I did as asked. Then I noticed that all of the staff in the area had also brandished and aimed weapons at me. She then asked the Mandalorian to do the same. When he didn't, she said that the child would be safe and I wouldn't harm him. While he tried to remember the child's name, he couldn't even begin to wonder what his name started with. Before I could say that I would never harm a child, the Mandalorian put his blasters away, as did the staff. He then looked towards the Duchess, and they had some kind of silent conversation before he threw a necklace with a pendant on it. She caught it before putting it around her neck and he turned toward the child again. That was something to note, both Jedi thought. They both knew that Mandalorian warriors follow ancient traditions, so for this Mandalorian to do this had a significance that they might never understand. Continue, please, Padawan Kenobi, Yoda said, wanting to know about the symbol he asked about. Oh yes, now where was I right? The Mandalorian then knelt in front of the young boy and said something that I couldn't hear. I only caught him saying, "This is the way," and the child responded the same way. I thought I heard the Duchess whisper the same, but it seemed like something reserved for Mandalorian warriors, so I dismissed it. This is the way. It seemed like some sort of creed to the Jedi, but they couldn't confirm it due to all the different Mandalorian doctrines created throughout history. Yoda still remembered the story about Mandalore the Destroyer and her ability to rally the Mandalorians to her cause. Even he had to admit that she was a leader to learn from. She was especially known for her quote during the Siege of Luin, "Here's why you can't exterminate us, Eddie. We're not huddled in one place, we span the galaxy. We need no lords or leaders so you can't destroy our command. We can live without technology so we can fight with our bare hands. We have no species or bloodline so we can rebuild our ranks with others who want to join us. We're more than just a people or an army, Eddie. We're a culture. We're an idea. And you can't kill ideas, but we can certainly kill you." He was brought out of his musings by Obi-Wan. The Mandalorian then used a jetpack to leave, and before I knew it, the Duchess was kneeling in front of the boy and hugging him while he cried. I felt out of place, so I started looking around the area we were in, and I saw that symbol on multiple banners and paintings. The staff said that it was the sigil of House Uzumaki. Considering the words of the Padawan, Yoda knew that his question had been answered. "Thank you, Padawan Kenobi. Great help you have been. Now go, I must." With that said, the small Jedi Master exited the Jedi library. While searching for his two fellow Jedi in the matter, he contemplated who the child Obi-Wan spoke of was. Could it have been the young boy he saw in the Force? Well, there was only one way to find out. He brought a communicator to his mouth before contacting Masters Windu and Plo Koon. "Masters, after you gather what you need, meet me in the hangars, we depart for Mandalore." After receiving confirmation from both masters, he changed his direction for the Jedi Temple hangars. Mandalore 40 BBY present day. The Consular-class cruiser exited hyperspace above the planet of Mandalore. While it was there under the pretense of delivering supplies, it also carried 3 very important passengers. The 3 Jedi Masters, Yoda, Mace Windu and Plo Koon, sat inside the salon pod of the ship. "We will most likely be stopped as soon as we exit the cruiser," Mace spoke. Both other Jedi agreed with him. Mandalore was not very friendly with the Republic, hasn't been since 262 R3, and that was 696 years ago. So if they try to refuse us and make us stay on the ship, we need to ask for an audience with the Duchess. It will be the only chance we have to meet the boy, and from what Padawan Kenobi told Master Yoda, she has a very close relationship with him. "Correct, you are," Master Yoda replied. "An audience we shall ask for." As the ship descended through the atmosphere of the once beautiful planet, the 3 Jedi started to meditate, preparing themselves mentally for the answers they would receive. Would the answers help them, or would they just get more questions? Mandalore Sundari. Walking out behind the cargo being dropped off was the Jedi, and they were proved correct in their earlier assumption. As soon as the 3 set foot on the landing pad, they were surrounded by Mandalorian protectors and Mandalorian guard. Looking around, the Jedi noticed that there were too many protectors and guard around them for them just arriving. Someone knew that they were coming. The Mandalorian protector stepped forward and addressed the Jedi. "You are to re-enter your ship and leave immediately, Jedi. You are not welcome here in Sundari or on Mandalore." There was an edge in his voice, which most would find strange in a new Mandalorian, but the Jedi understood why. It was Master Plo Koon who stepped forward before a few Mandalorian guards brandished some stun batons. We mean no harm. All we wish is for an audience with the Duchess, Satine Kryze. Plo Koon said. Every Mandalorian protector and guard in the area tensed, and the GD noticed this. They were ready to fight the GD if it came to it. It is of the most importance. So please, if we could get an audience, it would be most helpful. The stare down continued for a few more moments until who the GD assumed was the leader grabbed a communicator and spoke to someone through it. The GD didn't fail to notice the increasing number of Mandalorian protectors and guard joining the force, barring them to the landing platform. It wasn't long until a spreader showed up with only 2 protectors in it. One of the protectors got out and walked up to the GD. You 3 are to come with me to meet Duchess Satine. I will warn you of this one time. If we even think you have ill intent towards the Duchess, you will be dealt with. He said in a cold and deep voice. The GD could only nod before being led onto the speeder and heading towards the Sundari Royal Palace. After arriving at the main entrance, the protectors led them to another speeder to take them through multiple corridors. It was not long before they reached a platform with large doors behind it. After getting off the speeder, the GD waited for the door to open as the guards quickly surrounded them. While the GD were waiting, they started to feel through the force and felt the emotions around them. Anxiousness and weariness were the main ones felt by the guards around them, but the emotions on the other side of the doors caught their attention. Fear greeted them. While not small enough for a GD master to miss it, it was large enough for even a seasoned Padawan to sense it. Soon, the large doors started to open gradually. Once the doors were fully open, the GD were led before the young Duchess of Mandalore. Hello GD, I am Duchess Satine Kryze of Mandalore. She spoke with a regal voice. What business do you have on Mandalore? While she hid it well, there was fear bubbling up inside of her, and she didn't know why. Thank you, Duchess, for the audience you granted us. GD Master Yoda, I am. With me, Masters Mace Windu and Plo Koon. Yoda spoke in his odd manner while the other masters bowed. Brought here, we were. A vision, the Force showed us. I don't know much about this Force you speak of, only that Padawan Kenobi and his master used it to protect me and my family. She was being honest. The only answer you would get from a Mandalorian when asked about the Force was that it was the sorcery used by the GD. But I will indulge you. What did this vision show you? Unclear, most is. But something of Mandalore, it showed us. Yoda knew he had to be careful with his words. One thing said wrong, and he and his fellow GD would be on a ship back to Coruscant. A symbol, it showed, along with a child. The symbol you say, well that doesn't narrow it down much, Master GD. In the history of Mandalore, there have been countless symbols. The longer the talk went on, the more her earlier fear grew. She had a feeling that the words spoken next would confirm if her fear were reasonable or not. Red hair, the child had. Well, that could be any child on Mandalore. Quite a few Mandalorians shared the trait of red hair, her sister included. And a banner, wide it was with a beast. A pit formed in her stomach. Oh no. Satine thought. Well, it narrowed the answer down, neither option was good for various reasons. Golden it was, with 9 tails. And with that said, Satine's fear was realized. The GD had come for her family. While not family in blood, she was the one who raised the child they were talking about. When his parents died when he was barely 2 years old, she was there when his uncle couldn't be. When his uncle was forced to leave when he was 4, she was there again. She couldn't let them take him, not now, not ever. As if sensing her thoughts, the dark-skinned GD spoke up. I mean no disrespect, my lady, but this is of the utmost importance. In the vision, it was the boy who called us here. So, if you could, please let us know where we can find this boy. After that was said, any argument Satine had died in her throat. She was always told he would have a great destiny by his parents and uncle, and now fate was forcing her to accept it. Guards. She called out. Prepare some speeders. It seems that my guests and I must pay a visit to House Uzumaki. A protector left with a grunt of confirmation while the others formed around the Duchess. As 2 speeders moved through Sundari, a multitude of thoughts and feelings were going through the passengers' heads. From the worry and apprehension of Satine to the wonder and curiousness of the GD. Passing by the various cube-shaped buildings of the city, many of the citizens wondered who the 3 people in robes were with the Duchess. She could still remember the night Naruto's mother told her about what her son would do. It was the day of his first birthday. Flashback. House Uzumaki Estate. Satine, come here, please. A woman kindly spoke. Satine walked over to the woman. She was in her late 20s and had pale skin, long red hair, and purple eyes. This was Kushina Uzumaki, the current head of House Uzumaki. Yes, Lady Kushina. Is there something you need? Satine asked. What did I say about calling me lady, Satine? It makes me feel old. Kushina admonished her in a teasing tone. Well, we wanted to talk to you about something important. Wait, we? Satine thought. She turned around to see 2 men standing behind her. Both were around Kushina's age, but visual similarities ended there. The younger of the two had tan skin, spiky blonde hair, and blue eyes, while the older one had tan skin darker than the first, medium-length black hair, and brown eyes. These were Minato and Jango Fett. "Don't get nervous, Chris. We aren't going to bite." Jango snarked. She didn't find it funny. She was surrounded by three of the most dangerous Mandalorians, and she was a pacifist. "What we have to say isn't just important for you, but for all of Mandalore." Important for all of Mandalore, now that intrigued her. "What do you mean?" "Satine, what exactly do you know about the main branch of House Uzumaki?" Kushina asked the young girl. "I know what the history books tell everyone," Satine answered. "House Uzumaki is one of the few surviving major houses of Mandalore alongside houses Kryze, Vizsla, and Caste." She thought a little more before continuing. "It is said that House Uzumaki were the first humans to join the Tongs in their crusades." "Correct, but you didn't mention the most important information about House Uzumaki. And that is that members of the main line of the family are almost always Force-sensitive." "Force-sensitive?" Satine asked, confused. She seemed to remember the words being mentioned before by the women in front of her, but she didn't know why. "Yes, Force-sensitive. You might know it better as the sorcery used by the Jedi." That got a reaction out of the girl. Almost everyone knew of the strange powers used by the Jedi. "The thing is, my son and I are the last members of the main line. And a prophecy has been passed down in my family, given to us by Mandalore the Ultimate himself." "Why tell me this?" Satine asked with apprehension. "I am the future leader of the new Mandalorians. We oppose everything that you and the true Mandalorians stand for." "Because Satine," Minato finally spoke. "We have concluded that you will have a part to play in this prophecy in the future. It is called the Prophecy of Mandalore for a reason." Before she could get a word in, Minato continued. "The prophecy goes as follows. The galaxy will fall into darkness unless a child of the Great Fox can rise. Behind them, many shall follow. Allies shall reach greatness, while enemies shall reach destruction. Bearing a great power, they will lead the galaxy to prosperity. Using both the dark and the light will they accomplish this. Peace will be brought to the galaxy, but the wars will not be forgotten." "I don't think I understand," Satine stated. She was overwhelmed by what was just said to her. "You believe that little Naruto is the one of this prophecy? Weren't prophecies just told in children's tales?" "Right now, you don't need to understand," Jango spoke. "Just know that in the future, you will need to make a decision." "He is right, Satine," Kushina spoke up. "Naruto has a great destiny ahead of him. And we hope that when the time comes, you will be there to help him. This isn't just for the sake of Mandalore, but the sake of the entire galaxy." I don't think I can decide all of this right now," Satine stated as her voice wavered. "And as my brother said," Minato started, "right now, you don't need to. This is all in the future, and you will know when to make the decision." Flashback. "My lady," a guard's voice broke her out of her reminiscence. "We have arrived at the estate of House Uzumaki." She looked up and gazed at the snarling face of a fox on the gates. "Thank you, let us get going," she responded as she walked off of her speeder. The GD followed behind her and her guards, but she noticed one thing. The three seemed to now be on guard and were looking around. They sensed something she couldn't see. "I must welcome you now, GD, to the estate of House Uzumaki." When the Duchess and the GD neared the estate, the gates opened to reveal an assortment of servants ready to greet them. The GD noticed the common trait of white and gold clothing worn by the people. Looking closer, they could see the weapons that Obi-Wan spoke of. "Duchess Satine," a woman spoke. "Lord Naruto has been waiting for your arrival." This intrigued the GD. From what they knew, the Duchess never sent a message during the entire time they were with her. "So he has, well, take us to him, please," Satine stated. "Knowing Naruto, he will not even notice us enter." As she said that, the servant led them throughout the estate, with the others returning to their duties. As they were walking, Plo Koon spoke up. "Duchess Satine, would you mind telling us about young Naruto?" He and his fellow GD were curious to know more about the one the Force was leading them to. "Of course," Satine answered. "His parents fought in the Civil War and were killed, stopping a Death Watch terrorist attack. His uncle was also a member of the True Mandalorians, so I have been the one to mostly raise him outside of the staff here. He is like the little brother I never knew I needed." That interested the GD. The connection between the Duchess and the child was stronger than they thought. This could make the coming conversation very interesting. He was once a boy who always smiled, but over the past 2 years, he has changed. He smiles less and spends more time reading about the history of Mandalore meditating. She said with a sad smile. "Outside of myself and my sister, I don't think he has smiled at many people." "So he has become somewhat of a recluse then, Duchess." "Well, it is strange for someone of his age, it is not uncommon for someone who has lost family." Plo Koon spoke. "In my travels across the galaxy, I have met many who stopped talking completely because of the loss of those close to them." While his words were wise, they didn't stop the hurt that filled Satine's heart. She has tried to bring back the radiant child she helped raise, the one who quickly became family to her. You might be right, and we should count ourselves lucky then. After a few more minutes of walking through the expansive hallways, they came upon a pair of large doors. Before the servant could move to open them, they moved on their own. Well, the people around them were not surprised by the action. Besides the guards of the Duchess, the GD felt something. It was the Force. Someone had used the Force to open the doors. Looking around as they entered, the three masters saw a multitude of paintings depicting the past of Mandalore. From the original Tong species to the Mandalorian Wars to the recent Mandalorian Civil War. They showed everything. On one wall alone were paintings of every Mandalore to have ever been. But what amazed the GD even more were the paintings depicting the GD and the Sith. Focusing in front of them, they saw the child of their Force vision. While he did acknowledge their presence, the GD could tell he was focused on the Duchess. I was beginning to wonder if I needed to come to you, Satine. The boy spoke while the GD were curious about why he said that. What do you mean by that, Naruto? Satine asked. You should know that you can't hide your emotions from me. They were getting more erratic by the moment. He replied, proving the suspicions of the GD. The one who used the Force was the one they were searching for. So, let's talk. As the group sat down, servants quickly brought tea as the guards walked back to the hallway and shut the doors. It seemed to the GD that even they were not allowed to hear this conversation. Naruto, I would like to introduce you to GD Grandmaster Yoda and GD Masters Mace Windu and Plo Koon, Satine said as each master gave acknowledgement at the mention of their name. They have come to Mandalore to see you. I know, Naruto replied. I saw them in my dreams, the ones I told you about. Now the GD were intrigued, but they noticed a look of concern and conflict cross Satine's visage. If you knew they were coming, why didn't you tell me, Naruto? Satine asked while feeling hurt. She thought Naruto trusted her and would tell her about something like this. Well, I would have if I knew exactly when they were coming. And to me, it looks like you already knew they would be arriving. He answered. Now, I think the GD want to talk. Interesting, you are, young Uzumaki. Yoda started. Mandalore, we came to, after a vision, the Force showed us. Something similar, you have seen, yes. While gauging his expressions, Yoda also felt Naruto through the Force. And what he felt must have been felt based on their sudden emotion spike. The Force seemed to surround the boy in front of them in a blanket of protectiveness. I think I know what you are talking about. But I more have felt than saw. Naruto explained. The things I see are not clear to me most of the time and make no sense. So, I just focus on the emotions I can feel. And what did you feel? I felt fear, pain, despair, death. It was everywhere and something covered everything up in darkness. The emotions Naruto spoke about, the ones the GD saw in his eyes, told them enough. What Naruto saw changed him. For one so young to experience this, it worried the GD. Before the silence went on, Mace Windu broke it. From what you have told us and what we experienced, we believe you are Force sensitive. Satine gained a worried face, while Naruto seemed broken from a trance. If what you say is true, may I ask you to do something then? Naruto asked in a quiet voice, compared to the even tone he spoke in earlier. The GD nodded as Naruto stood up and stuck out a fist. I will need one of you to bump my fist while the other two grab onto your shoulders. While the request was strange, the GD complied while Satine looked on confused. Master Windu stepped forward, while Master Plo Koon sat Yoda on Windu's right shoulder before gripping his left. Master Windu reached forward with his fist, and as they touched, everything turned white. When their sight returned, the GD noticed that the Duchess was nowhere to be seen, and Naruto was not in front of them. A world of white had surrounded them. Hearing footsteps, they turned around to see Naruto, but he was not alone. By his side was the same specter they had seen in the vision. Greetings, GD, the specter spoke in a deep voice. My name is Tar Vizsla. You may know me better as Mandalore the Knight. That shocked the GD, as they knew very well who Mandalore the Knight was. How are you here? Master Windu asked. You died during the Ruusan campaign during the Light and Darkness War. He was conflicted, as were his fellow masters. The man in front of them was legend among the more knowledgeable GD. A Mandalorian who became a GD Knight. I am here because of the Force. The looks on the GD's faces did not change, so he took a different approach. There is still much you do not understand about the Force. What I am about to tell you, you mustn't tell anyone else. Ask of us, you do, to keep this secret. GD Council, I assume. Yoda spoke in speculation. Yes, especially the GD Council. While I know of your status as council members, they are not ready for the information that I am about to divulge to you. Sharing a look, the GD nodded. Understand, we do. Through the Force, one can gain a form of immortality. When I died, I became one with the Force. But with a form of training that I discovered in a holocron, I achieved this. While saying this, a grimace formed on his face. Troubles you, something does? Yoda asked. Yes, it was the source I learned this training from. The source was a Sith in origin, created by a Darth Vitiate. But, the information was incomplete, erased. The Sith Lord created it. Mace exclaimed. Why would you learn a technique from the Sith? They are the enemy of the Jedi. I was going to destroy the information immediately, but when I glimpsed at some of the information not erased, I had to learn it. All in order to understand. Well, they only saw the grimace on his face, his eyes told a different story. Apprehension was evident in the eyes of the Mandalorian Jedi. Discovered something you did? Yoda asked. Yes, I did. It was stated that he was not the first to do this, and that both Jedi and Sith can learn it. The holocron also hinted at the technique being improved by this Darth Vitiate. He learned to transfer his spirit to other bodies. That was not good to hear. The visions that the Force showed them were bad enough, but now Tar informed them of an ancient Sith Lord who was possibly still alive. Unsure of what to say, Plo Koon spoke up. So, I take it you have a plan to stop the Sith Lord. While he was compassed on the outside, the Keldorian was trying to think of any possible connections between the Sith and the Force vision. Yes, and that plan involves young Naruto here. When he said that, all three Jedi looked over to the young boy they forgot was there. Looking over at him, they noticed him meditating and were surprised. The Force seemed to blanket the boy as if trying to protect him from any possible danger. Yes, the Force favors the boy, it does. Yoda agreed. As you all know of the Jedi prophecy that foretells the Chosen One, what if I told you of another prophecy? A prophecy that was clearer and spoke of the same Chosen One. Tar spoke as the Jedi turned their full attention to him at the mention of the prophecy. Clearer, you say? Yoda questioned. A prophecy of the Chosen One. Yes, what I speak is truth. This prophecy has been passed down the main line of House Uzumaki since the days of Mandalore the Ultimate. That caught their attention. It is something that Naruto already knows of, but he has asked me to inform you of it. Speak, please, Tar. The galaxy will fall into darkness unless a child of the Great Fox can rise. Behind them, many shall follow. Allies shall reach greatness, while enemies shall reach destruction. Bearing a great power, they will lead the galaxy to prosperity. Using both the dark and the light will they accomplish this. Peace will be brought to the galaxy, but the wars will not be forgotten. Tar spoke. These are the words that Mandalore the Ultimate told House Uzumaki almost 3,000 years ago. Tar walked over to Naruto and kneeled beside him as the Jedi contemplated his words. What do you think, Master Yoda? Master Plo Koon asked. The small master was still thinking before he spoke up. His destiny, the Force has decided. I'm afraid I don't fully understand, Plo Koon replied. A Jedi, he will not be. But help him, we must. Both Jedi masters were shocked at his statement. They tried to think of a response but could not, instead, they thought on his words and the words of the prophecy. What do you suggest we do, Master? Mace asked. Holocrons, we brought. The reason this is. Yoda stated. Both Jedi Masters' eyes widened. While they were gathering what they would need for this trip, the Force whispered to them, insisting that they brought their holocrons with them. While confused and suspicious, they did what the Force asked of them. Do you think the Force wants young Naruto to learn from our holocrons? Mace questioned. Yes, I do, Yoda answered. Balance he will need from us, he shall learn. While they seemed reluctant, the Jedi agreed to follow the words of their Grand Master. They soon joined the two Mandalorians in meditation before, as one, they opened their eyes. You have something to say, Master Jedi? Naruto asked. Yes, young one, Yoda replied as he felt the Force around the boy. Destiny is a Jedi, yours is not. But help you, we will. Naruto seemed not to be surprised by the not being a Jedi part, but the part about helping him did. Help me how? I thought that if I was not a Jedi, then I could not be taught about the Force. The greater destiny, you have. Both dark and light, you will need. Yoda explained. The light, we will be. The dark, you must find. The balance, you will become. Then I must thank you. Not many outside of the servants, House Kryze and Tar have shown me kindness. So, again, I thank you. Naruto said as he bowed to the three in front of him. There is no reason to thank us, young Uzumaki, Mace stated. But I must ask, what do you plan to do now? All three Jedi were curious for the answer as they knew that a Force sensitive would most likely not be welcome on Mandalore. Myself, along with the servants of House Uzumaki, plan to leave Mandalore. To prepare for the prophecy, I must learn a great many things. I can't do that here. Naruto responded. We already have transport ready. The only thing stopping us was waiting for your arrival. He seemed to want to say more but stopped himself. Something troubles you, young Uzumaki, Mace stated more than questioned. Yes. Well, Tar has explained to me that I must do this, I just wonder what will become of Satine and Bo. Naruto explained. Bo? Mace questioned. Yeah, Bo Katan. She is Satine's sister, just a year younger than me. I worry for them. I understand, Plo Koon said. Trust me, even as a GD, I understand these feelings. All I can say is this, focus on your mission right now. When the time is right, you will know when to return to those you care for. He is correct, Naruto, Tar spoke up. While to your young mind, what we are doing may seem small. It is bigger than every one of us right now. A time will come for you to return to Mandalore. Just wait for the sign from the Force. Naruto listened to everything that the 4 GD said to him. But Tar and Plo Koon were right, he didn't understand everything yet and a time would come for him to return. Okay, Naruto replied with a bit of sadness in his tone. I think we should tell Satine of what is going to happen. The white world once again turned bright, blinding the GD masters. When their vision returned, they noticed that they now sat in chairs. Looking for Naruto, the GD saw him lying on a couch with his head in the Duchess's lap. She was staring at the paintings on the walls with sadness while one of her hands ran through Naruto's hair. It was not long when he also woke up. The Duchess whispered something they couldn't hear to Naruto, but they heard him reply with a tired yes. Naruto sat up but leaned into her side while she pulled him close. Whatever Naruto did so they could talk in private must have taken a lot of energy. But the GD did notice something. The relationship was akin to a mother and son, and less of the sister and brother relationship Satine spoke of earlier. Duchess Satine, Plo Koon called out. We would like to inform you that we will not be taking Naruto with us to become a GD. Her mood seemed to brighten at that. So, he will not be taken then? He is to stay on Mandalore? She asked. The hope in her voice was not unheard by anyone. I'm sorry, but I am not saying that. Plo Koon said. The hope she was feeling died and sadness filled her eyes. Before I say any more, I must ask, do you know of the prophecy of Mandalore? A hesitant nod was her answer. Then you must know that Naruto is destined for something greater than being a GD. Just say it already. Satine forced out. What is going to happen to Naruto then? Naruto must leave Mandalore and forge the path that leads the galaxy to prosperity. Plo Koon said. He continued when the Duchess tried to interrupt him. And I am sorry to say this, but leaving tonight would be best for him to get started. He is a child. How would he be able to survive for that long on his own? He can't even pilot a speeder yet and you expect him to fly a ship. Satine voiced out hotly. She was about to continue when she felt someone grasp her hand. Looking down, she noticed it was Naruto. His big childish eyes bore into hers, trying to convey what he felt. I'll be fine, Satine, he said calmly. I will have all of my servants with me. You know that they fought in the Civil War, so I will be protected. Still, what if you are attacked by something they can't protect you from? What will you do then? She asked. Well, if it comes to that, then I would think that someone replaced them. He said with a slight smile. You don't need to worry. Plus, I have a feeling that I will end up where I need to be soon enough. He is right, my lady, a voice spoke. With us with him, he will come to no harm. Everyone turned towards the voice and noticed a large group of people dressed in white and gold Mandalorian armor, bearing the crest of House Uzumaki proudly. I take it you have been planning this for a while then, Naruto? Satine asked with sadness. Yes, as soon as I started having the dreams and when I was told of the prophecy. The ship is already prepared in the hangar on the edge of the estate. Naruto spoke as he couldn't look into her eyes. He didn't know what he would see in her eyes if he did. What about Bo, Naruto? Have you thought about what this would do to her? Satine asked in one last attempt to get him to stay. Yes, I have. But I know that if I were to see Bo again, I wouldn't be able to leave. I know doing this will hurt her, but she still has you. Just make sure she is safe for me, please. Naruto said with a resigned tone. Alright then, let us get you to your ship. She replied. The walk to the hangar was slow for all and arduous for some. The Mandalorians were walking around the group in a protective formation. Behind the Duchess and Naruto, the GD walked calmly, knowing that the galaxy would soon be on the path to peace and balance. When they got closer to the hangar, the doors opened, revealing a large ship. It mainly was gray with red accents and built like a Corellian Engineering Corporation freighter. The Mandalorians went ahead to the ship and boarded with 2 waiting by the boarding ramp. I don't think I have seen a ship of this build before, but it seems familiar. Plo Koon said. This ship was given to my parents by the Sekka's payment for saving the CEO's life. It is a ZT-800 Heavy Transport 5. My parents named it Akatsuki. Naruto replied. He took an extra step ahead of everyone else and turned around to face them. I guess this is it, huh? Yes, but know this, Naruto. Satine started as she stepped forward to hug him. You will always have a home on Mandalore, and don't forget that. She was doing all she could to hold back her tears. Thank you, Satine, Naruto said as he was less successful in holding back his tears. I also want you to have this as a sign that House Uzumaki will always come to your aid. He held out a necklace with a fox head pendant. Satine accepted the necklace, repeating the action she and Naruto's uncle did from 4 years ago. Tears started to roll down her face as she finally accepted what was happening. It was then that the GD stepped forward. "Young Naruto, something to give you, we do," Yoda spoke. Naruto turned to face them as the three reached into their robes and brought out three objects. They were cube-shaped and had a blue glow. "What are those?" Naruto asked, curiosity in his eyes. "Holocrons, these are," the Grandmaster replied. "Use these, you will, for training. Hold our teachings, they do. Learn, you will." Well confused, Naruto did as instructed. "Thank you, masters," Naruto said. With a final goodbye, Naruto walked up the ramp of the Akatsuki, followed by the two Mandalorians. After the GD and the Duchess cleared away, the ship took off, exiting Sundari and leaving Mandalore altogether. "See him again, you will," Yoda told the Duchess. "Yes, I will," Satine replied. The group walked back to the estate, meeting up with the Duchess's guards before departing on the speeders. One went back to the royal palace, while the other went to the Republic ship. One thing was certain, the galaxy will go through a big change and one for the better. For the child of prophecy has started his journey. Focus, 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 those were the words he kept repeating in his head, trying to use the force. They have already been traveling for a few days, avoiding any significant routes and flying slowly while still in Mandalorian space. While Death Watch wouldn't know he was off-world yet, there was still a chance of one of their ships finding them. Sensing a presence, he opened his eyes. "I can tell something is on your mind, Naruto. Tell me, what is it that troubles you?" Tar spoke. "We can't start your training if you are not focused. I just worry about back home. Well, I know that we have to travel, I can't help but worry about Satine and Bo-Katan," Naruto said, the worry palpable in his eyes. It was understandable, he was only an 8-year-old. What if Death Watch were to attack? What if? "Calm down, Naruto. None of that will happen." Tar started to explain to the scared child. "Death Watch is still recovering from the civil war. It will be years before they regain a semblance of power. Don't forget, many clans split apart before leaving Mandalorian space completely. There were entire clans who left. House Vizsla itself is fragmented. The power they gain will be nothing like before, even with the Darksaber." He was right. After the death of Tor Vizsla, after the Mandalorian civil war, House Vizsla lost power. Everyone lost power. Very few clans stayed whole, but fled from Death Watch while the rest became divided, some staying, most fleeing. The last he heard, many sought a place among the remaining true Mandalorians. "Fine," Naruto huffed. "But you still haven't told me how to use these holocrons. Saying to use the force isn't helping. I can barely use enough of the force to open a door, and these certainly aren't doors." Since leaving Mandalore, Naruto was slowly breaking his shell and acting his age. Closing his eyes, Naruto started taking slow, calm breaths to strengthen his focus. "So, how am I supposed to open these things?" Tar just gave an exasperated sigh at the impatience of the child in front of him. "To start, be patient. Impatience here will only lead to more failure. Now, feel the holocron, every piece of it is important." Looking down at Naruto, he noticed that some of the corners of the blue cube slowly turned. He learns fast. Not even I learned how to do this so fast, and I was considered a prodigy. Tar thought. As time passed, more of the holocron in front of Naruto moved. With a click, the final corner of the holocron rotated and a glow emitted from the cube. Both child and Spectre looked on with interest as a figure started to form from the light. When the figure was fully formed, it was a holographic form of GD Master Yoda. My holocron, you have." Yoda spoke. "Explain, you will, who you are." "What?" was Naruto's simple response. He met Yoda a few days ago and didn't understand why the hologram asked who he was. "Naruto," Tar spoke to get his attention. "This version of Master Yoda doesn't know who you are. It only knows information up to the point of when Master Yoda last gave it new information." With a nod of understanding, Naruto began to explain to the hologram the events that happened. It knew about the vision given to the GD Masters, so Yoda must have updated it relatively recently. With some extra input from Tar that Naruto soon realized the hologram couldn't see, it was agreed that Naruto could learn from the holocron. "Start, we will." Yoda began. "Learn what the force is, you must. An ally, the force is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us, binds us, penetrates us. Luminous beings we are, not this crude matter we stand on." Silence is what met the GD Master. While intelligent for his age, Naruto couldn't comprehend what the wise Grand Master was trying to convey. "I am sorry, but I do not understand what you are trying to say, Master." "The force, everything it is. The stars, planets, us, everything," he hologram explained. "We are the force, and the force is us." Naruto gained a thoughtful look before giving a reply. "So, the force is everywhere then. But if it's everywhere, then why can't everyone use it?" In his mind, it made no sense. The force didn't make sense even with what Tar had told him. "Very few, chosen by the force to use its power." Yoda began. "Powerful the force is. But dangerous it is when used by the wrong people. Now, understand, do you? I think I do. So, what do I do now? Naruto asked. Still not understand the Force, you do. But even I do not understand the Force. Understand differently, everyone does. Yoda explained. Naruto still had much to learn about the Force. He wouldn't be able to understand it just because someone said a few words to him. Seeing the confusion on Naruto's face, Tar decided to speak. Naruto, the Force is something that has no solid understanding. There is always a new discovery to be made from it, either from the light side or the dark side. I doubt even the Celestials know everything about the Force. Naruto nodded until he heard the last thing Tar said. Wait, Celestials. Who are the Celestials? He was curious. Never in his life had he heard of the term Celestials. They are ancient, immortal beings that are very powerful in the Force. They are known as the Father, the Son, and the Daughter. But that is a tale for another time. Tar stated. Naruto went to ask more about them, but Tar just waved him off, and Holocron Yoda began to speak again. Discuss later, possibly. Now focus, Yoda stated. He looked around the room they were situated in and grunted. There are three main aspects. Control, sense, alter. Naruto seemed to turn confused at the three aspects. Focus, young Naruto. In time, explain I will. You need to be patient. Yoda admonished. Control is internal. Necessary to recognize the Force in us, it is. With it, you can use the Force to your best abilities. Sense is external. The ability to sense the Force around you. Sense those around you, you will. Alter, only possible if the previous are mastered. But, possible to learn it is by accident. Very dangerous accidents. Manipulation it is. Yoda stopped as Naruto absorbed the information. He could understand the basics of what was told to him, but he wondered why alter was so dangerous. Control was the Force inside yourself, while sense was the opposite, it was outside. Alter seemed easy enough to him, but then he remembered the mention of dangerous accidents. Nope, he would stay away from that for now. He very much liked staying alive and in one piece. As he delved deeper into his meditation, he didn't notice the objects in the room start to float. Strong in the Force, this one is, Yoda thought. It wasn't long before Yoda and Tar noticed Naruto begin to levitate a few inches off the ground. Then they saw something. Naruto began to frown as sweat gathered on his brow. They knew what this was. The Force was showing Naruto a vision. All around him were stars. Confusion and apprehension were all he felt. Confusion for he did not know what he was meant to be seeing, and apprehension for the last vision the Force showed him gave him a glimpse of a great darkness devouring the galaxy. What is going on? Naruto questioned out loud. He got his answer in the form of a strong presence in the Force before he was thrown through the expanse of space he was floating in. As he was flung through space, he tried to look at the planets he passed but failed to recognize any. The speed at which he was traveling was too much for his eyes to comprehend his surroundings. Before long, he appeared to be in the outer orbit of a planet. It was similar to a mixture of Kashyyyk and Coruscant. It was primarily covered in extensive forests and swamps, but had a few large cities that gave a similar feeling to the Ecumenopolis. The most defining feature was that the cities comprised multiple large spires reaching into the planet's upper atmosphere. The powerful pull grabbed him through the Force and yanked him towards the most prominent spire on the planet's surface. As he got closer, he feared hitting the clearly reinforced wall before he phased through it. After feeling his body to ensure he was still in one piece, Naruto looked at the room he appeared in. It was like anything he had ever seen. The technology seemed light years ahead of anything else in the galaxy. After taking in the appearance of his surroundings, Naruto looked to his left to see a large suspended bridge bathed in a golden light. Large guards he assumed covered from head to toe in golden armor were on each side, with only glowing blue eyes visible through their helmets' visors. Each carried a large golden shield with the same color scheme of the armor. What confused him was the lightsaber-looking pikes that each armored figure was brandishing. The hum of the blue blades was unmistakable. How could someone outside of the Jedi Order and the old Sith Empire have lightsabers? Naruto questioned in his mind. While he was thinking about this, he finally looked towards the bridge's other end. A large golden throne sat upon an equally large dais. Focusing more on the throne, Naruto saw a figure sitting there, seemingly looking right at him. Is he waiting for me? He asked himself. He received his answer when the person gave a subtle nod as if he had read his mind. Unsure of what to do, Naruto looked around for a possible exit from this vision. He didn't know who this figure was, and his last Force vision didn't end well. Once again, as if reading Naruto's mind, the man beckoned for Naruto to come forward. When he still didn't move, an intense pressure attacked Naruto's body, forcing him to his knees as he broke out in a sweat. He didn't need to be told where the source of it was. His danger senses and connection to the Force pointed to the figure on the throne. Walking down the length of the bridge, Naruto was able to get a better look at who was sitting on the throne. Sat upon the throne was a human man with gray hair and a full beard. Naruto was intrigued by the clothing he wore, as it was in the same colors as his own house. He wore uniquely designed white armor with gold accents on his torso. The long black cape hung from his pauldrons, while his lower half was covered by a robe that hid his lower armor. Once Naruto was at the base of the dais, he was shocked by the power that seemed to come off the man in waves. The three GT masters he met didn't give off this feeling of pure dominance that permeated the room. Feeling that the man wouldn't like any kind of weakness, Naruto spoke up as clearly as he could. "Excuse me, sir. Who are you, and where am I?" He received no response, just the same emotionless look he had received since he first noticed him. While unnerved by the look he was getting, his protectors had taught Naruto to keep his emotions under control for the most part. This look was nothing compared to the looks on the faces in his last vision. Those looks continued to haunt him in his nightmares. "My name is not important," the man spoke. "You may call me if anything." His voice lacked any emotion. While he appeared to be looking at Naruto, it felt more like he was looking through him. "Now, what is your name, young Mandalorian?" Naruto was too shocked to answer the man whose name he was supposed to hear but couldn't. His nerves were starting to take over from being in this man's presence. The man, knowing he was Mandalorian, surprised him, though. He never mentioned where he came from. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, heir of House Uzumaki of Mandalore. But I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your name." Naruto finally replied. Once again, he was subjected to silence as the man stared at him. His gaze seemed to become more intense until he hummed in what Naruto thought was satisfaction. "It appears that they won't let you know who I am, interesting. But I digress. You are powerful in the Force. So powerful that even I was intrigued by your presence," the man stated. "Those GT may have started you on your journey and training in the Force, but you require a proper teacher." "Proper teacher?" Naruto questioned himself. "I have Tar to help me and the holograms from the holocrons. That Force spirit and those holocrons won't be enough." The man's voice broke him from his thoughts. He shouldn't be surprised that the man knew what he was thinking, he was clearly powerful in the Force. While they may be able to help you in the technical aspects of the Force, they can't help you put the practice to application. He had a point, Naruto conceded. None of the Mandalorians with him were Force sensitive, Tar was a Force spirit, and the holocrons only provided recorded teachings with holograms. But where was this man going with this? He didn't even know his name still. "When the time is right, you will arrive here. I will personally train you in the ways of the Force. Show you things you never thought possible." "Where is here?" Naruto asked. The one thing he should have asked when he arrived here, he didn't ask. The others can't know about this. "I would be a laughingstock, and Tar would find a way to punish me," he thought to himself. "This is in what you know as wild space. I suggest making your way to the planet of Jedha," the armored man answered. "What? Why can't I hear him again? Plus, if they are in wild space near Jedha, that's on the complete other side of the galaxy," Naruto thought. "This is going to take me forever to get there. We have to travel slow to stay off Death Watch's radar already." The man must have been reading his mind again, as Naruto was sure he saw some kind of cruel amusement in his eyes. Suddenly he jerked his head and looked out the glass dome. "It appears that your time here is up. I await your arrival, but I do hope that you are stronger by the time you get here." He then looked at Naruto, and he saw it. Naruto saw his eyes pulse the same sulfuric yellow he saw in his first vision. A powerful force blast hit him, and he was thrown out of the vision. "Arg." Naruto let out a grunt as he impacted against the wall of the room he was meditating in. Opening his eyes, Naruto saw the curious face of Yoda and the slightly worried gaze of Tar. "Well," Naruto groaned out. "I think I know where we need to go now. We aren't stopping our trip at Doran now, we have to head to Jedha." That drew curious looks from both Master GT. "Why Jedha, Naruto? Did the Force show you something?" Tar asked. Naruto then went into telling the GT what he saw. From the highly advanced planet, the people in armor holding lightsaber pikes, and the armored man. "He said that he was to train me since with you two, I can't do anything that physical with my training. He said that when we get to Jedha, he will reach out to me again. Then he forced me out of the vision," Naruto explained. His head hurt from being forced out of the vision so harshly. "Jedha, Yoda's hologram spoke. "Strong in the Force, it is. But this man you speak of. His eyes, the yellow color. Eyes of the Sith, they are." He closed his eyes before he spoke again. "Be careful around him, you must. The Sith treachery follows them everywhere. The Sith Lord Darth Malak betrayed his longtime friend and master, Darth Revan, for more power. Doubt, I do not, that this man is a Dark Lord of the Sith. He will do the same." Naruto felt an invisible weight settle upon his shoulders. He never expected to run into a Sith so soon. While he and Tar expected that he would one day, they didn't expect that to be until the time his first vision showed him. What did the Sith want with him anyway? He's just a child from Mandalore with only a basic understanding of the Force, if you could call it that. His training had just started, all he knew was the beginning of some lightsaber combat forms. Naruto, Tar spoke up. Well, this is dangerous, and I am unsure if what I am going to say is wise, maybe this isn't so bad. Naruto was about to interrupt him before Tar continued. Before you freak out, let me explain. This could help you greatly. We currently have no one to teach you about the dark side. You can't learn to balance the Force without knowing the dark side. You didn't have a proper teacher, so the Force has led you to one or led one to you. Correct he is, Yoda spoke. The Force works in mysterious ways. Guiding you, it is. Accept its help and guidance, and you will succeed. Naruto listened to what they told him, but it did little to calm his nerves. That man, the power he exuded, Naruto feared him. But with no other option, Naruto agreed with them, only after being reminded that meeting this armored man was some time away. Before Naruto could speak, a knock sounded from the other side of the door. Who is it? It's Icarus, Lord Naruto. A male voice spoke. I think we should continue my training later, Master Yoda, Naruto spoke. Getting an agreement from Yoda, Naruto closed the holocron and put it in his personal chest. You can enter now, Icarus. In walked a Mandalorian wearing the white and gold armor of House Uzumaki, but his paint patterns differed from the regular warriors. Icarus was a part of a group of 10 Mandalorian warriors who earned the name the Eternals during the Civil War. He was well built and stood at an impressive height of 6'2", removing his helmet revealed fair skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. Lord Naruto, Phastos has informed us that we will be arriving upon Borgo Prime in a few hours. Thank you for letting me know, Icarus. Is there anything I will need to bring? Naruto asked. He was confused when his servant protector gave him a blank look and released an exasperated sigh. What? Icarus let out a light chuckle. Well, for starters, you are going to need to change clothes. We bought you those cheaper outfits for a reason. Seeing the confused look on his young charge's face, he knew he needed to explain more. Naruto, you are dressed like a high-class noble. Where we are going, those clothes will attract a lot of unwanted attention. Something we are already going to attract attention due to the fact of our armor. Now he was even more confused. Naruto had always worn the clothes he had as a teen, always bought them or had them made. I always wear these clothes, Icarus, what is wrong with them? Well, no one will deny Naruto's intelligence, he still had much to learn about society outside of Mandalore. Ah, Icarus eyed. Naruto, look at it this way. With the clothes you are wearing now, someone will mug you for money. The clothes we bought you, you are going to blend in more. People are more likely to think of you as a foundling than the heir to House Uzumaki. Icarus explained. Naruto seemed to understand as he nodded along. Now, I am heading to the lounge. Get changed and meet me there. Naruto nodded as he walked over to his trunk by his bed. Grabbing his new clothes, he took a better look at them. The ensemble of clothes consisted of a black tunic, a hooded gray coat, a heavier black coat, black pants, and black boots. In his opinion, Naruto thought it looked like Icarus bought the clothes off a street stand. Getting dressed, he headed towards the lounge of the Akatsuki. Walking into the lounge of his ship, Naruto was greeted by the appearance of Icarus and 9 other Mandalorians, wearing the colors of his house. What are you guys talking about? Naruto asked as he walked over to the group of unmasked Mandalorians. He sat between a man and a woman. The woman stood at 5'10" and was often described as statuesque, her fair skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes adding to this look. In contrast, the man was Herculean and stood at an impressive 6'5" while having tan skin, black hair, and brown eyes. They were Thena and Gilgamesh. We were discussing what we were going to do when we land planetside, Thena spoke. She was looking at a datapad and reading something he couldn't make out. Borgo Prime is a known shadowport in the Outer Rim. It is dangerous and has enough criminal activity to be acknowledged by the Pirate Queen Maz Kanata. Pirate Queen Maz Kanata? Who is that? Naruto questioned. He was a little annoyed about all the new information that he had forced upon him in the last few hours. Now he had to deal with the Pirate Queen. Maybe he should have gone with Ajiti. She isn't important right now, Icarus stated. What is important is keeping you safe and meeting with other warriors of House Uzumaki. As you know, for the past year, every Mandalorian of House Uzumaki was sent off of Mandalore in waves. While we took the Akatsuki, they all left in Gauntlet class and Fang class ships. About 3/5 of our forces are currently on Borgo Prime, Karlak, and Dantooine. The other 2/5 have yet to set up operations anywhere, Thena spoke up. So far, they have just been searching for Mandalorians who aren't loyal to Pre Vizsla and Death Watch. I have thought that we could send them to Irie. Jedha, Naruto interrupted her. He received questioning looks from the Eternals, so he tried to explain. Just have them meet us on Jedha. We are going to be traveling a while to avoid Death Watch. So have them meet us on Jedha when the time comes. It was clear that the Eternals knew he wasn't telling everything. Before one of them could question him further, an Eternal on the far left spoke. I will start to contact the proper people and let them know. Plus, it is out of the way and will be somewhere to lay low, a man said. This was Eros. He was well built like Icarus and stood at 6'1". He drew similarities to Naruto with his tanned skin and red hair, but he had blue eyes. Come on, Phastos. You can start preparing to bring us into orbit. We must be close enough to Borgo Prime by now to exit hyperspace. Phastos had dark skin, black hair, brown eyes, and a full beard. He was Herculean in stature like Gilgamesh and stood at 6'3". You're probably right, Phastos answered with a shrug. Oh, well the rest of you are still planning, here is the list of supplies that I need. When we get to a spaceport, we will need to purchase them at some point. He then handed a datapad to Thena, who took it and transferred the data to the datapad she was already carrying. After conversing for a few more minutes, the Mandalorians retrieved their weapons. Borgo Prime was dangerous, and if what the members of House Uzumaki already here told them was true, they would need these weapons. Other Mandalorian clans being here could be good or bad. Who were they loyal to? Borgo Prime Haven Prime. After gaining permission to land in the Haven Prime spaceport settlement, the Akatsuki was able to land. Many of Haven Prime's inhabitants stared as the unknown ship landed in the hangar. It was clear that whoever owned the ship was someone not to be messed with. 10 Mandalorians walked down the ship's ramp in a protective formation around a young child. The Grand walked up to the group as they descended. Hello, travelers. My name is Kalmado. I am the mechanic of this hangar. Not receiving a reply from the group, Kalmado tried once again. If you would like, my droids and I could work on your shy. He was cut off when a verboblade was leveled at his throat. If you touch the ship, it will be the last thing you ever touch. One of the larger Mandalorians said. A voice stopped him just as he was about to push the blade further. Phastos, I know you love the ship, but don't kill someone over it, Icarus said. Now put the blade away. Let's go. With a huff, Phastos sheathed his blade. Kalmado stumbled back as the group pushed past him. Before he could speak, the Grand was knocked out by a pipe thrown at him. See, much easier and less blood to draw attention. For being one of the smartest among us, you get violent when it comes to others touching your tech and machines. Icarus said to Phastos with his arm extended, who grunted in response. Walking through the streets of Haven Prime, the group received many looks ranging from curiosity, fear, and indifference. Many races in the galaxy still feared Mandalorians, but the symbol of House Uzumaki alone was enough to drive off almost anyone. From being known as close confidants of Mandalore the Ultimate during the Mandalorian Wars to destroying all Death Watch they came across during the Mandalorian Civil Wars. There were always a few who tried to prove themselves or earn a name by attacking them, none survived long enough to attack. Where are we going, Thena? Naruto asked. He looked around his surroundings and noticed how the area looked. The only comparison he had was of a slum he had sometimes seen on the Holonet. All of the buildings were filthy and miserable, whether they be stores, bars, or homes. A different group of thugs appeared around every corner. We are going to meet up with the Mandalorians we have on this planet, but we will be staying here for a few days. It should be enough time to get everyone organized. But I suggest you stay with Gilgamesh and me. You never know when someone might try something. Naruto didn't understand why she wanted him to be so close to them until he entirely took in his surroundings. Everyone around him that wasn't a Mandalorian was a criminal in some way. He wouldn't be truly safe on this planet, but after his recent vision, he didn't think he would ever be safe again. With one last look around, he got further within the group as they continued to their destination. If the group were to look back, they would have seen an armored figure on a distant roof, aiming an ICO-11 blaster rifle at the Uzumaki heir. The figure wasn't wearing just any armor, though, it was Mandalorian armor painted gunmetal gray with a blue bodysuit and highlights. While the colors wouldn't indicate anything, the signature Shriekhawk gave away their allegiance to Death Watch. The Mandalorian appeared to be ready to take a shot as their finger rested on the trigger, but it was for naught. A vibroblade soon protruded from the back of his neck, going through his throat. They never had a chance to make a sound before they died. The blade was removed as the body became limp on the roof. The killer being another Mandalorian in black armor and bodysuit with silver highlights, bearing the sigil of a coiled Vexus. It seems I must inform Lord Cass that it is time, a male voice sounded from the helmet. Haven Prime outskirts. Naruto couldn't believe the amount of ships that he walked past. All were either Gauntlet class or Fang class, just as Icarus said. The sigil of House Uzumaki was proudly shown on all the ships, and it wasn't long until Mandalorians bearing the same sigil started to appear around them as well. While it was said that House Uzumaki and its vassals made up an entire third of all Mandalorians in the Civil War, he had never seen so many in one place. Currently spread throughout Borgo Prime were 70,000 members of House Uzumaki, all waiting for orders from the Eternals on what to do. When they finally reached the center of the Mandalorians at Haven Prime, Naruto noticed that a building was surrounded by defenses and had plenty of guards as well. It wasn't hard for him to determine that this was some sort of headquarters that was being used by those in charge of the warriors here. As they neared the building, about 20 Mandalorians lined up on both sides of the main door saluting him. It was only thanks to past experiences and teachings that he didn't shy away from the attention. As they got closer to the door, Naruto noticed a surplus amount of Mandalorians using long-range weapons on the roof of the building and the erected towers around it. He couldn't help but wonder why, but maybe that was the reason why the 20 warriors formed an honor guard at the door. After entering the building, 2 warriors quickly led them to a conference room. All noise ceased when those in the room noticed them, but that didn't stop the oppressive sensation that Naruto felt. Being in a room with so many powerful warriors would do it to anyone, especially when a powerful empath like Naruto was there. He quickly tried his best to block out the overbearing emotions and tried a breathing exercise that Tar taught him long ago. Within a few minutes, he was accustomed to the emotions, with Tar helping block them out as much as his astral form would allow. He turned to Icarus, who was staring at him and nodded, knowing he was comfortable. Okay, now that we are here, it is time that we start planning for the future of not just House Uzumaki, but all of its vassal clans. This is for Mandalore and the rest of the galaxy. Icarus exclaimed. There was a roar of agreement from the gathered military leaders. Now, Cassius, you sent word that you have information for us. Please explain. A man standing at around 5'8" with tan skin and black hair stood up. On the shoulder of his grey armor was a symbol in the shape of the ancient Star Forge. This was the sigil of Clan Ordo that Canderous Ordo, Mandalore the Preserver, chose. Cassius was the split image of his ancestor. Yes, I have received word from my clansmen in the other spaceports. They have spotted Mandalorians not of House Uzumaki or its vassals, Cassius stated. He gained questionable looks at that. It wasn't uncommon to find unaffiliated Mandalorians, but in current times they needed to be cautious. Cassius then said they bore the sigil of House Caste and Clan Rook. That brought everyone to attention. Thena and Gilgamesh moved to stand on each side of Naruto. Everyone in the room knew of House Caste and its affiliation to Death Watch. Now they needed to find out why they were on Borgo Prime in the first place. House Caste was known to be staunch supporters of any cause they joined. No one in the room thought it likely that they would abandon Death Watch. Some of the clan leaders in attendance murmured to each other, discussing possible reasons why they would be there. It wasn't until Icarus spoke again that they stopped. Well, it seems that while we are here, we will all need to gather information on them. We need to know the locations of their forces, how large of a force they have, and most importantly, why they are here. Icarus stated, it isn't a coincidence that they are here at the same time that we are. Now, Thena spoke up. Is there anything else of importance we need to be made aware of? Speak now before this meeting is dismissed. The Mandalorians seemed to mull over what they wanted to say before Cassius spoke up once more. Well, I have been hearing word about a large group of Weequay pirates. They call themselves the Anaka Gang, and word has it if they find profit in something, they go for it. He stated with a look that showed he knew more than he was telling. Why is that important? Some pirates are not going to be of worry to us. Thena answered back. A smirk appeared on the Ordo's face. Well, I've heard that they have caused some trouble for Death Watch since the Civil War ended. Rumor has it that before his death, Tor Vizsla put a bounty on the captain of the gang, a Hondo Anaka. That interested everyone in the room, well, almost everyone. Naruto was busy trying not to laugh at the fact that the powerful House Vizsla was having trouble with a gang of pirates. Others noticed this and smirked as they too found it laughable, but they had better control over their reactions. They also felt relieved that their young lord was able to show his emotions like this. They all knew about when he suddenly cut himself off from showing emotions to pretty much everyone. Only the Kriz sisters could get him to act his actual age, not the version of him that acted like a hardened adult. It seems that they will be of interest, but that is for another time, Thena stated. Now I think this meeting is over. I don't know how long we will all be on this planet, but over the next few days, we will have much to discuss. With that said, everyone filed out. Heroes led Naruto to sleeping quarters as it was getting late and he needed to meditate with Tar. Naruto got into a meditative pose on the floor and took calming breaths. He was nervous that the force would drag him into another vision. While he agreed that the visions helped him, the overwhelming presence of that armored man still shook him. Now, all he wanted was to begin delving into the first main aspect of the force, control. Relax, Naruto. For now, put those visions behind you. You will not be able to train in the force if you don't. Tar advised his young charge. He couldn't allow him to be held back by fear, well reasonable, didn't need to be dwelled upon. In his opinion, Naruto needed to focus on the here and now. Take some slow breaths to calm yourself. With a slight nod, Naruto began to go over what Master Yoda had told him. Control is internal. It is necessary to recognize the force within us. By training in control, one can use the force to the best of their abilities. Naruto tried to think about what Master Yoda meant by the force within, but couldn't think about where to start. He stayed in meditation, thinking about it for a few hours before Tar spoke to him. "You take Grandmaster Yoda's words too literally, Naruto," the Mandalorian GD spoke. He noticed that Naruto had stopped meditating and was looking at him. He continued by saying, "Control for any being, force sensitive or not, is important. You must first be able to control your own body before you can control the force. I started you on this when your training with me started 2 years ago, so it will be easier to strengthen your control on the force, but you are still not at the level to even attempt to control it yet. But I have used the force before, Tar. Why can't we start now?" the child asked. Tar was once again reminded that Naruto was still only 8 years old. His maturity at such a young age made it hard to tell sometimes. But he knew he needed to explain before Naruto got ahead of himself. "You have used it in uncontrolled bursts. That also only happened when Duchess Atene or Bo-Katan was around you." He saw Naruto about to speak up but continued. "The pranks you pulled on the Eternals or Mandalorian protectors to amuse the Duchess and her sister don't count." Naruto ceased all attempts to speak at that. "So what am I going to be doing then to train?" Naruto asked the spirit. He immediately felt a bit of dread as he knew a devious smirk was on his master friend's face. "I think Tar is up to something I'm not going to like. Maybe having him follow Bo and me around was a bad idea," the young Mandalorian thought. An eerie light seemed to be cast over the spirit, which confused Naruto as they were in a room with no windows. "Well, now that you ask." Naruto, at that moment, knew he should have tried to stay with one of the Eternals. Maybe Cersei would have protected him from his coming doom. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.